Hello everyone and welcome for this very special Analyst Desk episode in which I will present to you my preview for the Tokyo World Tour as well as the Monaco World Finals in the Manufacturer Series for this 2019 season. So first of all, I wanted to tell you that the document I'm using will be available to read as I will share it in my social network alongside the video. So if you prefer to read instead of looking at the video, then feel free to download it and just read. So I will go through the document with you and talk a bit about what I wrote and maybe give some more informations. So first of all, I will present the teams. I've decided to talk about the five drivers that helped each manufacturer to qualify because the two guys that will not go to live events also deserve recognition in my opinion. Then I will also talk to you about my opinion on the format of the events, that is to say the category used, the races, and also a debating point on the main minimum driving time for each driver because we saw some things that were subject to discussions in the last event. And finally, I will talk to you about my opinion on the tracks to use to have the most balanced possible event and to don't give advantage to any manufacturer. So let's get started. Yeah, so just before I start this video, I just want to say that if anyone has any problem with what I say, feel free to tell it to me. Maybe some of the drivers don't want me to say some stuff about them, but I made sure I didn't offend anyone in the video, so that should be okay. Then just remembering that I will present the five drivers. And also, when I present the cars for each manufacturer, I will only present the GR3 car because I don't think that they will use GR4 because GR3 is very balanced. GR4 isn't as much, so it wouldn't make sense to use GR4 now, in my opinion, because it would give too much of an advantage to some manufacturers. And then you'll see that I'm talking about the previous results for drivers. I'm only using the manufacturer series results of this year to talk about this because Nations Cup is a completely different thing, and I might be doing another video for the Nations Cup for Monaco when I will have the full list of the drivers. So let's get right into it with the manufacturer that qualified in 12th position. As you know, there will be 12 manufacturers in the final and also in Tokyo. So it is Team Chevrolet. They are using the Corvette C7 GR3, which seems to get better now because the balance updates helped it to come back in front of the GR3 cars. It's a car that is very good on fuel. On tires, it doesn't struggle as much as some other cars, and it's also quite efficient with fuel because if you know the Corvette, you can shift quite early and not lose a lot of time. So in my opinion, it's a car that is going to get better as we go towards the two live events. So we'll see how the drivers can do with the car in the final and also in Tokyo. For the drivers, driver that qualify in first is an Asian driver that we didn't saw in live events. He finished ninth in Asia in the official season. So he's surely pretty fast, but we didn't had the chance to see him in any live event, so I'm not sure that he will be able to go to Tokyo or Monaco, but we'll see there. And I might update my document if he goes to any live event before the World Final. Then driver number two is a driver that we already saw in Salzburg, Marco Mendoza. He finished 12th in South America in 2019. So that means that he's one of the top drivers of South America. So his appearance in Salzburg wasn't very successful as he finished 11th with Chevrolet, but It surely helped him to gather experience, and on-stage race always helps you for the next ones, because you will be able to handle the pressure and feel more at ease driving in front of the cameras. Um, and yeah, also the fact that the car seems to get better with the new updates surely will help in the next events. So we'll see how he does in Tokyo and in Monaco, but he'll probably want to get better than an 11th place finish. Then driver number three, I don't have any information on him. Unfortunately, I only know that he finished 11th in Oceania. So if you guys know him better than me, just feel free to tell me and I'll update my document. Then driver number four. So yeah, we'll see that I've highlighted some drivers in red in my drivers presentation. That is to point them as key drivers for their manufacturers, either because they are probably looked at as the leaders of their manufacturer or a key driver for the manufacturer. So he was in Paris for the first World Tour of the year. That's why I highlighted him as the key driver for this team, because he already raced with last year's world finalists. So he had the chance to talk with us and to learn some stuff about the world final and how it goes. So I'm pretty sure that he will try his best to apply what he learned during this year, and also because he's the only driver in the team that did more than one live event this year. So that's why I've highlighted him as a key driver. Um, he was driving for Mitsubishi in Paris and got sixth with the last year's two world finalists. So that was quite a good result for his first appearance. And then in Salzburg, he was with Marco Mendoza and also Nicolas Schwendimann, and he finished 11th with Chevrolet, as we already saw. So we'll see how it goes in Tokyo and in Monaco if the team is the same, because the two other driver doesn't seem to go to live events. So we'll see there. And finally, driver number five for Team Chevrolet is Nicolas Schwendimann, last one of the last year's world finalists for Citroën. So he already have some experience in live events, so that should help him to get better in on stage and feel more at ease. And yeah, as I said before, he already worked with his two teammates, so that can help them in terms of communication and practice, simply helping them to get faster in the organization of their practice, and also they know each other, so it will just be easier for them to communicate. So for Team Chevrolet's expectations for these last two events, as they finished 11th in Salzburg, they will probably be able to beat this performance, and with the car being better, they will surely be able to do so. And yeah, as I wrote, even if they qualified as last manufacturer for this year's World Final, you can't count anyone out in this series, because, for example, last year's Aston Martin was tied in 16th, that is to say last place qualifying manufacturer, but they finished third in the end, so you can count anyone out before the final results in manufacturer series. So we will see what happens in Tokyo, and then we will be able to reflect for Monaco to see if they will be able to do a better result. I would say that anything above like anything between seventh and tenth should be should be achievable for them, at least in Tokyo, and in Monaco maybe a better result, as they will be more used to work together. Then our second manufacturer is Audi. So they use the R8 LMS. one of the best cars in time trials and qualifying. So the problem of the car is the tire wear, obviously, because it's Neymar car. It also has a bit of struggle with fuel compared to some other cars. But if there is a track that suits the car really well, they will be able to do great results and maybe try to get a result like between fourth and seventh, maybe. That's where I see them. So for the drivers, we have Hayden Hunter, sorry, that went to two live events this year in Nürburgring and Salzburg, and each time, I mean, in Salzburg he improved his result with Audi, so he was ranked 8th at the end of the 2019 season in Oceania, and he already has experience, as I just said, because he went to different live events. He also already competed with Tijni, his teammate from Salzburg and Nürburgring, and that will be his teammate also in Tokyo and Monaco. So that should help them as they already know each other, obviously. Then I've highlighted Tijni as the key driver for Audi because he's probably the fastest of the three drivers. At least he's probably one of the oldest Audi driver in the game. So he knows the car very well, and he also can help his teammates with some advice and tips. He was also part of the GT Academy, so he also have some real track experience that can help too. And he's very experienced as he pretty much never missed any live event, so he can race on stage as he race at home, I believe now. So it will help him a lot because on stage you will always feel a bit of pressure. And yeah, as I said just before, the result for Audi are looking to improve with this 10th place finish in Nürburgring and now 7th in Salzburg. So we'll see how it goes in Tokyo, and if they continue to improve, well, maybe they could get a very good result in the World Final. Then for the third driver, it's an Asian driver that I wasn't able to find the name. I'm sorry again. I finished 10th in Asia this season, so that means he's obviously a top driver, but I don't have a lot of information on him. But I'm pretty sure he will adapt quite quickly with his two experienced teammates that will help him also to adapt to the live events and to driving on stage basically. Then the driver number 4 and 5, same. I don't have any information on them apart than TTG Zenit finished 15th in North America in 2019, and Nikos finished 28th in South America. So that's all I can say about them. So feel free to help me if you have any more information. So for Team Audi's expectation this year, as we saw in the last two events, they took part in, they are looking to improve their results, and obviously now that they are more experienced, they will probably do better. So I expect them to finish between fifth and eighth in Tokyo, and maybe the same or a bit better in Monaco, but I'm not very confident in them getting a podium finished in Monaco, but we never know. So yeah, let's see how it goes in Tokyo, and then we'll be able to see a bit more of what they are capable of, and maybe they can sneak a podium finish in the World Final. Then in 10th position, Alfa Romeo. They are using the 4C GR3, obviously. The car isn't a car that is used by many people in the game because it's harder to drive than some other cars that can go as fast. So that's why it's not used mainly, because when you have an easier car that can go as fast, why why would you want to use a car that is harder to drive? So there are a lot of people that thinks that the car is pretty fast, but yeah, as I just said, it's too hard to drive to like get used to it quickly. The three drivers for Team Alfa Romeo are Daniel Solis, that we already saw in multiple events in Manufacturer Series and also in Nations Cup. So he was ranked third in North America in 2019, which means that he's obviously one of the top driver of this region. So he also was in Nürburgring with another manufacturer with Ford, and he finished seventh. And he went to New York with Alfa Romeo and finished in the mid pack. So that is a strong result, but he will probably want to improve that. The good thing for him is that his two other teammates, Alonso Regalado and Shogo Yoshida, also were in New York with him, so they know each other and will be able to work together again, so it will be easier for them. So talking about Alonso Regalado, is the second driver for Alfa Romeo. He ranked 5 in South America in 2019, and yeah, in his first World Tour appearance, he finished sixth, so that's a strong result. And we will obviously be able to improve his driving on stage in the next events as he will have more experience. And then in third, we have Shogo Yoshida, which is one of the best Japanese driver. I've highlighted him as a key driver as the key driver for Alfa Romeo because I'm pretty sure that he will be the driver that will do the qualifying session if there is still the one-man qualifying session in a manufacturer series. I'll talk a bit about it later on, but I have some ideas for the different format for the qualifying session and races too. But yeah, let's continue on that. He has a lot of experience as he was also in last year's Asian finals and also in the World finals, um, where he was close to the podium with Mitsubishi. Then in this year's events, he finished sixth two times, one time with Mitsubishi in Paris and one time with Alfa Romeo in New York. So that are strong performances in both events. But now he will maybe try to improve with his teammates that he already know, and that will help them to work better together, obviously. Then in number 4, we have Thomas Compton McPherson, which was one of the member of Team Aston Martin in last year's World Final. Um, this year he finished 30th in the 2019 official season with Alfa Romeo in Europe, obviously. He has a lot of experience and a great sense of strategy that led him to have pretty strong results in every live event he took part in. It's like every time he takes part in an event, he's able to get on the podium. So that's a pretty cool thing to have with you. Then, yeah, as I said, he's a very experienced driver when it comes to the live events, and he can fit in the team pretty quickly if one of the other driver isn't able to go to the live event. Then the last driver for Team Alfa Romeo is a guy from Oceania, but I don't have his name because it seems that he's not well known. He finished 157th in this year, and he scored 38 points for Alfa Romeo. So I thought it was worth mentioning his name because he helped them to qualify. So if you guys have more information on him, just tell them to me. For Team Alpha's expectations, I'm pretty sure that they will be able to be a strong mid-pack competitor and maybe get a bit better results in the next events. I don't think that they will be able to easily get a podium finish, but maybe something between fourth and sixth will be the place that they will mainly fight for. But we'll see in Tokyo, and then as for everyone, we'll be able to reflect on their possible chances in Monaco. For Hyundai that qualify in ninth, the problem is that the car isn't very good. The Hyundai Genesis GR3 isn't one of the best GR3 cars. Obviously, it's probably even one of the worst, I would say, right now because it doesn't have a lot of power and it really struggles in straight lines. So I'm not very confident for them for this year, but we never know. Maybe if they are only handling tracks, they can do great results. But yeah, we'll see in the events, and it will obviously also depend on the drivers. So anything is still possible for them, but um, I see them between maybe seventh and last place for the events. But if they get anything better, then fair play to them because it will be very hard because of the car. Obviously, if there are some GR4 races, they will have a better time because their car isn't that bad in GR4. So they can just hope for that and maybe we'll see a great result for them. So number one in the Hyundai team is Kevin Ponder. We already saw him in Nations Cup and also in this year's Nürburgring World Tour where he finished ninth with Hyundai. He finished the online season 8 in North America, so that means he get in top 10 of his region, which is pretty strong. Um, and yeah, then we already saw him racing on stage, meaning obviously he already knows how to race on stage and how to handle the pressure. And he wasn't in New York and Salzburg, so I'm not sure that he will be in Tokyo and Monaco, but I'm pretty sure that he'll try to be there. And yeah, as I said, he finished in ninth with Hyundai in Nürburgring, so that was quite a nice result, I would say, for this manufacturer with this car. So we'll see if he goes to Tokyo and Monaco if he is able to do a better result. Then driver number two that I chose to highlight in this team is Anthony Duval. He finished 14th in EMEA in this year's season. So he will get his first Manufacturer Series appearance in 2019, but you have to keep in mind that he was also in the team that won the very first Manufacturer Series event back in Nürburgring 2018. So he already has experience in the Manufacturer Series in terms of team working and that kind of stuff. And he also has a lot of experience in on stage because he took part in multiple Nations Cup events. So that will be very helpful for him. Sorry for that. Then he will be able to help his teammates by giving them advices and also some tips. But yeah, as I said just before, it will be pretty hard for them because of the car. So yeah, fair play to them if they get a very good result. Then the third driver is Conor Healy. He finished ninth in Nürburgring with Hyundai and in New York finished in last place with the same manufacturer. He finished 10th in Oceania in 2019, and so as he made two World Tours this year, he already has some experience. He also already worked with Kevin Ponder, which is driver number one for the team, so they already know each other and can work together maybe a bit faster than the other teams that are completely new. So we'll see that in Tokyo and Monaco, and hopefully they will do a better result than they did in New York and also in Salzburg. Then driver in fourth place for this manufacturer is Aspi Cajal, ranked 14th in South America. He was also one of the last year's world finalists for Team Toyota and finished second. So he already has a lot of experience in live events and driving on stage. Um, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to qualify for this year's event. He did two events in this year, which were Paris and Salzburg. In Paris, he was still with Toyota and finished fifth, and in Salzburg, he was with Hyundai and finished in last place. But yeah, as I said, unfortunately for him, he didn't qualify for the last events of the year. But if some of the drivers that are in place 1, 2, 3 um, who aren't able to go to the live events, then he will obviously go there. So he'll be more than happy to get there and do his best to help the team. Then driver number 5, Tatsuro Ochino, ranked 20th in Asia this year. He was in New York and Salzburg, and unfortunately for him, it was two events where GR3 were mainly used, so Hyundai didn't get really good results. But yeah, if he gets to go in Tokyo and Monaco, he will obviously be wanting to get better results. So let's hope for them that they will be able to get better than these last place finishes, which are not very cool for this manufacturer. So for their team's expectation in Tokyo and Monaco, um, I have to be honest, I don't think that they will have great results this year, but maybe if there is a balance change before the last two events, they can at least get better than last place, because it seems that whatever they do, they don't have any chance at finishing better than, for example, 10th place. So at least giving them the chance to get good results would be very nice. And yeah, as I said, the only way for them to get better than these last places would be a race in GR4, because obviously if there are only GR3 races, they will have a very hard time, and they will probably fight for spots 9s to 12s, and that will be all for them. So yeah, let's hope for them that there will be a balanced change and that the GR3 car will get some buffs to help them in the live events. Then in 8th place we have Ford. They used the Ford GT LM Spec 2 test car and not the Mustang. So as the Ford is an MR car, if there is rain, obviously it will help them because the MR cars are quite strong in the rain. But otherwise, it's an average GR3 car. It's pretty good in terms of top speed and not that bad in terms of handling, but there are other cars that are doing it better. So that's not one of the most dominant car in the class. So for the drivers, the first driver is also the one that I chose to highlight. Adam Wilk ranked third in Oceania, so that means he's very strong in his region. And he also took part in 3 different live events this year. Nürburgring, New York, and Salzburg in Manufacturer Series, and he was also in the Nations Cup in some of them, and also in Paris, if I remember correctly. Um, so he was one of the first to believe that Ford had the chance to qualify, and he was pretty much the first to make the Ford train run. He preferred to use the Mustang, however, so I'm pretty sure that now he'll be more than trained with the Ford GT, but um, he thought that the Mustang would have been a better choice for the manufacturer, so we'll see how he does in the last two events with the Ford GT. But now that he already did, sorry, 3 events in the manufacturer series for Ford with the GT, maybe he will be able to get the car to its full potential. Then driver number two is Armen Aga Khan. So he was in two different World Tours this year with Ford in New York and Salzburg. As we can see, his result improved very well in Salzburg compared to New York. Um, he finished fifth in North America, which is a pretty good result. And as I said, he already did two different World Tours, so he got some experience from them. And he also already worked with Adam Wilk, so that will help him a lot in terms of organization. Driver number three for Ford is Adam Tapai. So he didn't took part in any manufacturer series events for Ford this year, but he was in Nürburgring for BMW, and he was also, I believe, in the first team that won the manufacturer series back in 2018 in Nürburgring in the first World Tour. But I'm not very sure of that, but just have to check. Then he finished in the top 10 in Europe, so that means he's a very strong driver. He will just have to adapt to work with his two teammates, but I'm pretty sure that it will be fine and they will work well together. Then driver number four is Kentaro Yamaguchi. He was one of the last year's finalists. He was driving for Chevrolet at that time. Um, he already have experience in live events and so even more some experience in world finals, which can help. So if he got to go to one of the live events this year, he will be able to adapt and to do great work for his team, basically. And finally, driver number five is Diego Rubilar. He was in last year's World Final with Honda, and he was also in this year's Manufacturer Series event in Paris, where he finished 11th with Honda. He was 24th in this season in South America, and he's quite a friendly driver that just wants to improve basically, and he puts a lot of training into the game to become better basically. And he will be more than happy to go to the live events if one of the other drivers isn't able to do so, and he will try to do his best for the team and learn even more stuff to get better at the game. So for Team Ford, I would say that they have a better chance to get podium finishes in the last events, as they have now more experience and they have drivers that already know each other. So I'm pretty sure that they will finish in the mid to top of the ranks, maybe from third to seventh, as I wrote in the paragraph. So I'm pretty sure that they will be able to show strong performances. But they will not be able, in my opinion, to get better than third, because there are other cars that are way better than the Ford GT in some tracks, and the Ford GT is a pretty situational car, I would say, for certain tracks, and that will not help them in the live events. So let's see how they are going to do in the last two events, but I'm pretty sure that they can get good results in there. Then in seventh place we have Aston Martin. The car used is one of the oldest car of the field, the Aston Martin V12 Vantage GT3 from 2012. It's pretty good in straights and not that bad in the corners, but it just received a slight balance change with just a bit less power and a bit less weight too. So that means it shouldn't be as fast in the straights as it was before, but it should also be better on tires, fuel, and in the corners, obviously. So that we'll see how that changes and how that affects their results in World Tours. But Team Aston Martin seems to always get good results in World Tours, so we'll see how they are doing in this year's last events. Driver number one for this team is Fabian Portilla. He scored 180 and 96 points, so that means he was close to the perfect score in his region. He was obviously first in South America. That means that he's our first regional season winner, as I called them, in our list. So he also went to multiple world tours, making him a very experienced driver. In my opinion, he's very fast, but just maybe sometimes he has some lacks of concentration that can lead to him making some mistakes. So as I said, if he just manages to stay focused, he'll be doing a lot of work for his team and be able to get them to the top of the ranks. Driver number two is Ayumu Takeda. He was in Asia and finished fifth in this season. He was also in Salzburg already for Aston Martin, so he already worked with his two teammates. That means that obviously they know each other and will be able to work better as a team. So I'm pretty sure that he will come to the last two events and will be able to show us a good performance and, as always with Team Aston Martin, good results. Then driver number three is Nick McMillan. He was seventh in North America in this year's season. He had great results with Aston Martin this year. He finished second in New York and fifth in Salzburg, which are two strong performances. And he was also in last year's World Final, so he got a lot of experience when it comes to live events. He was also in GT Academy, and so he got real racing experience that can help, and he can also share some tips with his teammates that other teams won't necessarily be able to get because they don't necessarily have some experienced drivers in terms of real racing. So I'm pretty sure that he will want to get results as good as he already has this year. So we will probably be able to see him deliver strong pace and strong performances in the last two events. And yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I'm pretty sure that for Team Aston Martin, the three drivers will remain the same in the last two events. So if that's the case, we can expect them to do great results in there. Then for the last two drivers, I don't have a lot of information. I know that the Oceanian driver finished 30 seconds finished in 30 seconds, sorry, in his region this year. But yeah, I don't have a lot of information. And then driver number five is Steve Charpion from Belgium. He finished 26 in EMEA this year, and he was in last year's European Nations Cup final, but didn't manage to qualify for the World Finals, so I don't have a lot of information on him. For their team's expectation, I'm pretty sure that they will be able to get good results, and I wouldn't be shocked if they just finish on the podium in the last two events of the year, because they always seem to get great results in live events, and now that they have a team that already is fixed with three drivers that already worked together, it will be better for them and easier for them to work. So they should even improve on their results, and I'm pretty sure that they have high chances at getting podiums and maybe even a chance at winning the live events because if they have tracks that suits the V12 Vantage, um, they will be able to get great results and maybe win the event. Then in sixth place we have Jaguar, which are using the F-Type GR3. So Jaguar this year did 3 live events, and they each time finished between 4th and 7th, which makes it a very strong mid-pack manufacturer. But right now, I'm pretty sure that they can even improve on this. The car is very good, but it needs a long straight, like for example in Monza or Tokyo. Um, but I'm pretty sure that right now, with the three drivers with the three drivers that already worked together, they can get very good results in the last 2 events of the year. So for Jaguar's driver, we'll have Kenny Konomos, who finished second in Oceania this year. He was in the 3 live events that Jaguar took part in this year, finishing 6th in Nürburgring, 7th in New York, and 4th in Salzburg for his best performance. So he's now well experienced on stage and will be able to improve again in Tokyo before the World Final. Um, his teammate Vinicius Neto already took part in the same events as Kenny this year, so they are used to work together. Vinicius was ranked 7th in South America, making him a very strong driver in South America. Um, so yeah, as I said, their teamwork should be on point now, and they must feel better on stage because they already did 3 different events only in this year. So we'll see how they do in Tokyo and Monaco. Then driver number 3 is Florent Pagande. He's a French and took part in Salzburg World Tour this year with Jaguar, where he finished 4th. He was 12th in EMEA this year, and yeah, pretty much since the game release, is on the top of EMEA rankings. Um, this year, he didn't took part in live events in Manufacturer Series, but he went in Salzburg for his comeback, so he did pretty well by finishing 4th. So I think that now that he's back in the Manufacturer Series with Jaguar, they can improve. That's why I highlighted him as the key driver for this team, because he practiced a lot with the car and he knows the car very well, since he already drove for Jaguar last year but didn't manage to qualify for World Finals. So when it comes to on-stage driving, he always seems to be at ease. He doesn't have any issue with pressure, so I'm pretty sure that he can help his teammates with that too, and that they can maybe get a podium finish in one of the last 2 events of the year. I would say that they can maybe get a podium finish in Tokyo, and then in Monaco they'll probably be between third and sixth, in my opinion. Then driver number 4 is Yoshiharu Imai, which is one of the member of last year's World Final team Aston Martin. He also went to Paris and won with Aston Martin and with his 2 teammates. He finished 11th in Asia this year, and as I said, we won the Paris World Tour. In last year's World Final, he finished third with his team after a very strong performance, and it was something that nobody was expecting, as they had qualified in the last possible spot for the manufacturers. He was probably seen as the fastest driver, and yeah, as I wrote, and yeah, I just made a little mistake here. He'll probably be able to fit well in the team if one of the other 3 driver isn't able to go to the events. Then driver number 5 is Eddie Gomez. He was also in last year's America's regional final for the Nations Cup. He finished this season in 14th in North America, but didn't went to any live events in Manufacturer Series this year. Um, his advantage is that he already drove on stage, so he should be able to adapt it adapt to it quickly and get good work for the team if he's able to work well with them. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem for him to drive on stage. Then for Team Jaguars expectations, so as I said, I expect them to finish between third and eighth in the live events. But I'm not pretty sure that they can win an event. But obviously, they will be a very strong mid-pack runner and maybe able to get a podium finish in one of the last two events. Then going on to the fifth place, we have Porsche with the 911 RSR 2017 version. Um, the Porsche car seems to get better and have regained a lot of popularity in the last weeks. As we can see in the exhibition season, a lot of people are running for Porsche. So the main issue for the car is that it doesn't have a good straight line speed, but it's also pretty good with fuel, as it seems. The car is able to save quite some fuel without losing too much time compared to when it goes in full attack mode, for example. Um, and it's also very good in the corners, so the car is quite nice for a lot of tracks, and the only tracks in which it will struggle are the ones with the very long straights. Driver number one for this team is Angel Inostroza. He didn't went to any live event yet. If I don't make any mistake, if I do, then just tell it to me. He finished 8th in South America in 2019, and obviously he will be fast, but maybe he will do mistakes due to him feeling a bit the pressure of the first time on stage, because it's very hard to drive in front of the cameras. Then second driver for this team is Tristan Bayliss. He drove in Salzburg with Porsche and finished second, which is a very strong performance. He was ranked sixth in North America in this season, and he already took part in live events and already has experience in driving on stage. Then the problem also is that he'll be the only one that remains in this team in terms of the members of the team in Salzburg. So that means the team will be completely different, at least should be completely different if the three drivers that qualified in the three first spots are going to Tokyo and Monaco. Driver number three is Matt Simmons. He finished fourth in Oceania this year, and he will be so the third driver for Porsche in Tokyo and Monaco. He went to New York where he finished 10th with Porsche. He was also in GT Academy as he won in 2015, so he got real racing experience that he can share with his teammates and also maybe give them some tips that can help them. Driver number four is Tatsuya Sugawara. He was in last year's World Final with Porsche and also in Paris and Salzburg this year, where he got two podium finishes, which are very strong performances. So he's very well experienced with the car, and he can fit in the team very well as he won't have any problem at driving on stage and driving with the car, basically because he knows it's probably better than anyone else. Then driver number five is Dilster72 from EMEA. I didn't found his name. He finished 28th in this year's season. He competes regularly in the top split in Europe, so that means he's used to hard competition. So he will probably be able to drive at a live event, but he never had the opportunity to do so yet. So we'll see if that opportunity is gifted to him this year. For Porsche's expectations, I'm pretty sure that if they got tracks that suit the car, they will be able to do great results. but if there are too much tracks with very long straights, they will struggle a bit. Um, just the downside I see with this team is that they never worked together before, obviously, and some of them don't have a lot of live events experience, which means that they will probably struggle in the first live events in the first races. So I think that in Tokyo they will struggle a bit maybe, and then in Monaco they will do better. So in Tokyo, I see them maybe between fourth or fifth and eighth to ninth, and then in Monaco maybe closer to the top, like from rank 3 to 7 maybe. That's where I see them finishing in the upcoming live events. Then we come to the top four manufacturers. Obviously, the favorites, as we can expect. So in fourth, we have Toyota, which will use the Supra Racing Concept 2018. So the car is one of the best in terms of pace without tire wear and fuel consumption. It's one of the best car for time trials because it's pretty fast in straights. Handling is quite nice, even if it lacks maybe some speed in high speed corners. But yeah, it's very fast. Even in high speed corners, it's very fast in GR3. So the main issue for it is that as soon as the tires are a bit worn, and with the fuel tank being close to being full, then the car isn't as fast as it is without. In terms of, I mean, compared to other GR3 cars, it is a car that loses a lot of speed when the tire wear and fuel consumption are set on. So this will be the main issue for Toyota's driver this year. But when we'll see the team, I'm pretty sure that they will find solutions to compensate for that issue. So I'm not afraid for them. Driver number one, and I chose to highlight him as the key driver for this team, is Tomoaki Yamanaka. Obviously, one of the most well-known drivers in live events and in Gran Turismo Sport in general. Um, he took part in 3 Manufacturer Series events this year in Paris, Nürburgring, and Salzburg, getting 2 podium finishes and even winning in Nürburgring. He finished first in Asia this season, so that means that obviously he's probably one of the best players in the world right now. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's very fast, very aggressive. I had the chance to race against him, and it's very hard to defend a position when he's behind you. So right now, I'm pretty sure that he's one of the best drivers of in the game. So that's a very good point for Toyota to have him in the team this year again, because he was also in Toyota's team in last year's World Finals and finished second. So he will probably want to get that first place this year. Driver number two is Igor Fraga, so obviously everyone knows him. He didn't took part in Manufacturer Series events this year, but he took part in some of the Nations Cup. Everybody knows what he's capable of in terms of pace. Um, so yeah, obviously 2019 Nations Cup world champion. He will race for Toyota in this year's last 2 events with a very strong team. So I'm pretty sure that he will try his best to win the World Championship in Manufacturer Series now, to have a trophy in the 2 different championships. And yeah, the little downside for him, because he'll have to find one, is that we saw him making some mistakes this year. For example, in Paris when he forgot to change the tires. or yeah, he selected 2 times the same compound. So I think that unfortunately for the competition, he made the mistake already. So now we will try not to make any mistake, and it will be very hard for the competition to outclass this team. I'm pretty sure. Driver number three, Ryan DeRouche. He finished fifth with Toyota in this year's Paris World Tour, and he was also in last year's World Final with Toyota, where he placed second. He also took part in Nations Cup this year, so he's probably one of the best French drivers in the game, and he will obviously want to get to that first place this year after that second place finish last year. So yeah, it will be, as I said, this team is pretty strong. Will be very hard to beat them in the live events. But yeah, the little thing that I can say about it is that the three drivers on the team are going to do the Nations Cup too, so that will lead to them not training maybe as much as some other teams in the manufacturer series, but we'll see how they do in the events, and I'm pretty sure they will do very well. Driver number four is Simon Bishop. Went to 3 different live events this year, ranked 6th in Oceania in 2019. He went to 3 live events and got podium finishes in 2 of them, even winning in Nürburgring with Yamanaka-san, for example, in his team. Um, he also was in New York and Salzburg, and in Salzburg he managed to finish third with Toyota again. So obviously, getting 2 podium finishes in 3 live events appearances is pretty strong. So I'm pretty sure that if needed, he will be able to get to the live events and show great pace and great performance. Driver number five is Turismo Cooper. I didn't found his name. I'm sorry. I only know that he finished 13th in North America in this year's season, but yeah, as I wrote, I don't have a lot of informations on him, so feel free to help me and just tell me if you want to give him some credits. For Team Toyota's expectation, obviously we are going to look at them as one of the favorite team to win everything in this year's last events. And I'll even, as I wrote, I'll go further and say that if they don't get any podium finishes in the last 2 events, it will be a very big disappointment given the team that they have. The only downside that they have is, as I said, that all the drivers are going to also do the Nations Cup, and the car is probably not the best car in GR3, but it's close to be one of the fastest cars, so that will not be a real issue for them, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I just made them. I just looking at some mistakes I made in my writing. I'm sorry. So yeah, as I said, I'm pretty sure they will get at least one podium finish, and maybe they will be able to win in Monaco because in Tokyo they will probably have maybe some struggles because they didn't worked all three together, but Ryan and Yamanaka-san already worked together, so they should be able to do great results in both events. Then the top three, we start with BMW, which will use the M6 GT3. Um, it was once a very good GR3 car that was used by pretty much everyone. The manufacturer series was just filled with only BMWs pretty much. But right now it's not nearly as good as it was before because of the fuel. Sorry. So yeah, the problem is that the car isn't slow, but it's that it uses a lot of fuel to be fast. So the drivers will have to find some tricks to save fuel without losing too much time, but it will be very hard. For Team BMW's team, we'll have Coque Lopez. He obviously is one of the most experienced driver in terms of live events, as he went to a lot of them, either for Nations Cup or for Manufacturer Series. So he won the season in EMEA this year, so he's obviously one of the favorite driver coming in the Manufacturer Series, and also one of the fan favorites, as we can see in each live event. The problem for him, as I wrote, will be the M6 fuel consumption, as we can even hear him in live events complaining about the fact that he doesn't have fuel in the car during the races. So I'm pretty sure that they will be able to find some little tricks to save a bit of fuel, but it probably won't be enough to get, for example, a win or something like that. Driver number two, and I chose to highlight him in these manufacturers, will be Nicolas Rubilar. Uh, Pretty much only drove BMWs since the game was released. Um, he was with Lopez and also with the third driver for BMW in the last events, that is to say in Salzburg. Yep. He finished second in South America this year, so that means Team BMW got one of the best, got the best EMEA player and the second best in South America in 2019 in Manufacturers Series. He already knows his teammates, so that will be a good point for him. He got a lot of experience in live events, obviously, appearing in multiple Nations Cup and Manufacturer Series events. Um, his main problem, I would say, is that he's probably trying too much to drive every time on the car's limits, so that's leading him to making a bit of mistakes sometimes. But I guess that's part of his driving style, and if he is able to keep the car on track, it's just pure art to watch. So yeah, very good driver. Obviously, I'm pretty sure that if the qualifying session is held as a one-man lap, he will do the qualifying again because he's so fast in these kind of sessions. Then driver number three, Randall Haywood. He took part in two events this year with BMW, finishing third and fourth, so that's two strong performances. He ranked fourth in North America in 2019. So he already has some experience in live events and will be able to improve again in Tokyo to be ready for Monaco. Um, the main problem for him, I would say, is that he wasn't in last year's World Final. Sorry. So as you may know, driving in world finals is always putting a bit more pressure on yourself than on I would say normal world tours. So he got with him two of the last year's world finalists, so they will be able to help him obviously, and it will be fine for him, I'm pretty sure. Driver number four for this team is Soma Izeri. He was in New York and Salzburg too. Ranked fourth in Asia. He was very fast when we saw him in live events, so I'm pretty sure that he will be able to fit in the team if one of the other driver isn't able to go to the live events. But I'm pretty sure that they will go to the live events. But yeah, just in case, it'll be ready to replace them and do great results. Driver number five is VLX Dinos. I didn't found his name, but as we can see, he scored 160 points, which is pretty strong. He ranked 12th in Oceania, but yeah, I don't have a lot of information on him, so just tell me if you want to give him some more recognition. Team BMW this year. So as I said, it looks very strong when you look at the name, because when you look at the names of the drivers, because they are very experienced and successful in live events. But yeah, the biggest issue for them is the M6 fuel consumption. In GR4, the M4 is pretty strong still, so they wouldn't have a lot of problems in a GR4 race, but in GR3, it would be a bit worse for them because obviously the M6 is using a lot of fuel, and at this level it's very hard to gain time on track. So if you lose a lot of time in the pits, um, that's not going to help you at all. But they still can get podium finish, in my opinion, if they are giving all they have, and maybe if they are all driving on the car's limit without doing mistakes. But that's the only way I see them finishing on the podium, because of the car's fuel consumption. Then in second place we have Team Mercedes. So they will use the Mercedes AMG GT3 from 2016. I'm pretty sure that Mercedes is now looked at as the favorite for these two upcoming events. It's probably, I would say, overall the best GR3 car, because it's good on fuel, it doesn't have a lot of issues with tires, and it's pretty fuel efficient. So it's a very, very good car to have right now. It's fast on pretty much every track. Even under rain, it's the only car that's not MR that is able to compete with the MR car. So yeah, it's probably the best car to have right now. We'll see if there are balance changes before the last two events, but if there are not, then Mercedes will have a very, very strong car for this year's World Final. Driver number one, Cody Nikola Latkowski, so scored 200 points in his region. That is already showing that he was pretty strong, but to top that, he finished first in Oceania, so that's going to that's just saying that he's the best in his region, basically. Um, he finished second in Nürburgring, then first in New York, and first in Salzburg. Um, I mean, you can't hope for better results, in my opinion. That's the best results we had for any manufacturer in consecutive events. So yeah, that shows that he's a very strong driver in the manufacturers series. Um, he's always on pace, but the the best. I think that the particularity in Cody is that he always wants to help his teammates the best he can. You can see him standing behind the driver in the on stage just to help him through the radio, telling him some tips or advice that he can have depending on the track situation at the moment. So yeah, the only thing that I can say that is a bit worse about him is that he sometimes seem to have a bit of issues at handling the pressure. He said it himself. He said it. He said that he needed to improve on that. So I'm pretty sure that he will try to improve for the last two events of the year. So we'll see how it goes in Tokyo and then in Monaco. Driver number two for this team will be Tom Lartier. He's the second place finisher in EMEA, sorry, this season, and I made a mistake. I missed a letter in online, sorry. Um, he only took part in one live event, but he won it, so that's a very strong performance. I mean, you can't hope for a better result for your first live event appearance. He's probably one of the best driver in EMEA right now, at least one of the fastest. Um, He was also he also already competed with his two teammates with the two teammates that he will have in Tokyo and Monaco, so that will help them to have a better teamwork and to have a better communication and organization. Then he obviously will probably be more relaxed now in on stage as he took part in one live event, so we'll see how it goes in Tokyo for him. Driver number three is the one that I've chosen to highlight in this team. So Anthony Felix finished two times first with Mercedes in the last two World Tours in New York and Salzburg. He was second in North America, so that is to say that Team Mercedes got Cody, which finished first in Oceania, Tom second in EMEA, and Anthony second in North America. So that's a very, very strong team. Um, so he's a strong team player, as we saw in the last events, deciding to pretty much, I would say, I'm sorry to say that, but he pretty much decided to sacrifice himself with hard tires to get the best result for his team. I will just talk about the minimum driving time a bit later on in the video, just after I presented the teams, because I think that it would be better if we saw him driving more, because he's a very talented driver. So he's very experienced because he took part in a lot of live events. He was in last year's World Final too, so he already knows what it's like to drive on a World Final stage, and this will probably help him to get good results again because they will be looked at as favorites for the last two events in Tokyo and Monaco. Then number four is Bernal Valverde. He scored 181 points in South America. He finished ninth in this season. So he was in two different live events, Nürburgring and New York. He finished second and first in these two events, which are very, very strong performances again. This team looks very, very strong this year. So he was very fast and quite impressive in his first appearance. So he would be able to adapt quickly to the team if one of the drivers can't go to a live event, because he already worked with Cody and Anthony, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to fit in the team. And for the last driver, I didn't found his name. He finished 18th in Asia this year, but I don't have more information on him, so I'm sorry. Um, for Team Mercedes expectations, they will obviously be looked at as the favorite after their two consecutive wins. Um, the problem is that they will have to face maybe a bit more pressure now because everyone will want to hunt them down. Um, so yeah, but as they have a lot of experienced drivers, they should be able to handle it, and we'll see how it goes in Tokyo and Monaco. But it will be a very big upset if they were not able to get at least the last two podiums of the season. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll discuss about it maybe after the events to see how they did, and I'm pretty sure that they will get podium finishes in both Tokyo and Monaco, but maybe they will even be able to win in the two last events of the season. And I would place them as my favorite for Monaco this year because they have a very strong team with a very strong car. So, in my opinion, they are in the best spot to win this year's World Final. And then in first, to finish our team's presentation, we have Team Lexus that will use the RCF GT3 as last year's car. The three drivers are completely different from last year's, but they are still very good, very good drivers. Sorry. The problem for them is that the cars isn't on top of of the GR3 class now because it has received some nerfs, like the M6 for example. Um, it's now a bit harder to save fuel and don't lose time in the car. So, but it's still a very good car in terms of handling, and it can do very well on a lot of tracks. So it is a very good track for it is a very good car for pretty much any track in the game. So yeah, they can still do very good results. Driver number one is Adriano Carrazza. He was in a lot of live events, so he already has a lot of experience. He went in. He went to 3 live events this year in Manufacturer Series, 2 times with Porsche and once with Lexus. The biggest issue I see with Adriano is that sometimes he's maybe too aggressive, because the problem is that he's very fast, but maybe sometimes he do not take the time to reflect on his next move, or I don't really know, but sometimes he has a tendency to get small penalties on live events that can penalize his team, obviously. But I'm pretty sure that if he tries to stay a bit more calm and relaxed, he can just get good results and don't get any penalty at all. Driver number two that I chose to highlight in this team is Andrew Brooks. He went to a lot of live events, mainly in the Nations Cup, but he now also competes in the Manufacturer Series. He got a podium finish in New York with Lexus, so that means that it was a very good performance for him. He finished first in North America, so for me personally, I see him as a very talented driver, and I know I'm not the only one because I talked to some other drivers that also think that he's a very talented guy. He puts in a lot of training, so he knows a lot of stuff about the game and about the car. Um, the problem for him, mainly in Nations Cup, is that he always seems to have some kind of bad luck in the races that prevents him from getting good results. But I'm pretty sure that if he's able to get through all the incidents, he can achieve very good results in both Nations and Manufacturers Series. So he's one of the drivers to watch in the events because he's probably one of the best drivers in the game right now. Driver number three is Baptiste Beauvois. He was ranked fourth in EMEA, and I failed again in ranked. Sorry, I didn't put the right letter at the end of 2019. So he already went to 2 live events in this year in New York and Salzburg. In Salzburg, unfortunately, he had some bad luck with the team because they were caught in an incident and they lost a lot of time. Um, he also does Nations Cup, sorry, so that shows that he's a pretty fast driver in the game. Um, I think that the only issue for him is that he might be a bit too aggressive and not really relaxed when you race. And I'm pretty sure that now that he has a bit more experience, he should be able to better handle the pressure and not make any mistake. So if the 3 drivers are able to keep the car on track and be as fast as they can be, they will be able to compete with with the other manufacturers on top of the rankings. Driver number 4 is Kanata Kawakami, so my teammates from last year's World Final. Unfortunately, he was very close to qualify for this year's World Final, but didn't make it. Um, Probably one of the best driver on the game. I still think that he's one of the best in the world. He got a great sense of the strategy, and also is always able to get the car to its full potential. So if needed, he will be able to replace any of the drivers that is supposed to go to the live events, and will be able to fit in the team very well. Then, finally, our last driver of the list is Daniel Holland. He went to New York and finished third with Lexus. So for his first appearance in Manufacturer Series, he got a podium finish, which is very, very strong. Um, he finished fifth in Oceania in 2019, so that means that he is very strong in the region. Uh, and yeah, he will be able to fit in the team because he worked with some of its members already, so that wouldn't be much of an issue for him. The expectations for this team, the three drivers are very fast and experienced now, so I'm pretty sure that they will do well. They will probably, even if they are not even if they were not in last year's World Final for Lexus, they will probably feel that small amount of pressure from driving for the reigning manufacturer. So I hope that they won't feel too much of pressure. And same as some other manufacturers, the little the little thing that I can say that isn't very positive for the team is that all three drivers are also going to do Nations Cup, so that means that be they will not be able to put as much training as they could have put in for the manufacturer series if they only did the manufacturer series. So I hope that it won't go too much against them, but yeah, again, we'll see in Tokyo and Monaco. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that they will do well anyway. But if they would have only competed in manufacturer series, they probably would have put more training in that. And it's the same with a lot of manufacturers. Pretty much every manufacturer that got some of its drivers in Nations Cup will have this issue. So we'll see in Tokyo and Monaco. So now that we have finished the driver's presentation, I will just talk a bit about the format and how I see the event in the future. So for the used category in manufacturer series, I'm convinced that they should only use GR3 cars because it's quite balanced now, and GR4 isn't as balanced, even if they are doing a lot of efforts to balance the class, but it's very hard to do so. So I'm pretty sure that they should only use GR3 cars. In terms of the races, I have some stuff to say because I thought about a different format in the manufacturer series. So right now we have two endurance races, which is very great, but the main issue for me is that in the manufacturer series, the qualifying is only done by one of the teams, one driver in each team. So, in my opinion, we should maybe change a bit the format to have three endurance races in the live events, three races of 30 minutes. So, the qualifying would be held before the event in three different sessions of 10 minutes. Each driver drives in one in a different session, and at the end, the average best time is used to form the grid, basically for for race one. And then we'll have 3 different endurance races of 30 minutes with driver swaps. So in my opinion, having 3 races would help because drivers would be able to drive more, and it would also help because if, for example, a manufacturer got a very bad race 1, they would be able to get points in race 2 and race 3 instead of just hoping for any other manufacturer to have very bad results, which can't happen basically because everyone can't finish last. So right now, if you finish like in 8th place in the first race, your event is pretty much done, I would say, because even if you win race 2, you will have a lot of points to gain back. So it's uh, pretty hard to get on a good finishing position if your first race is very bad. So in my opinion, 3 races would be better in the manufacturer series, but 3 endurance races. Um, the only downside to it is that we wouldn't have we wouldn't have the top 6 qualifying anymore in manufacturer series, but we can keep it in Nations Cup because it's more individual related. I hope that you understand what I try to say there. In my opinion, the drivers should have an impact on qualifying. So with everyone taking part in it, it would be more of a team effort, like the manufacturer series was created to do so. So yeah, let me know what you think of it, and I'm ready to have debates with you around that. But yeah, in my opinion, it would be better, but maybe you'll have some different arguments to tell me that that it should stay as it is right now. So let's discuss it if you guys want to do so. Now regarding the minimum driving time, so we had some issues in the last events with some guys driving for only maybe 3 or 4 laps in the whole event, so that wasn't very cool. I think that it's not nice for the viewers because they think that the drivers that are not driving a lot are not that good because they are just not driving a lot and they don't see them. So the problem is that the drivers are very good, but for the strategy, you have to do some weird stuff. So, for example, we had the example with Anthony Felix, who is a very talented driver, but for the strategy of his team, only got to drive 1 or 2 laps per race in the last event. It was the best strategy for the win. Sorry. So Team Mercedes did great for it, but I think that it would have been better if all the drivers had to drive for a bit more time. So what I thought about was to imagine that we use the 3 endurance races format. Um, I'm pretty sure that we could add for example, a 7 consecutive minutes minimum driving time in each race. So I'll explain this a bit later on when I talk about the tracks, but for example, if you take Interlagos, 7 minutes, 7 consecutive minutes would lead to something around 5 laps. So that's already pretty nice compared to doing only 1 or 2 laps. I mean, driving 6 or 7 minutes per event after all the work and the travel to get to the live event is not very nice in my opinion. But yeah, we'll see how it goes in the last 2 events of the year. So let's discuss that in the comments if you guys want to. Um, but I'm pretty sure that they will find a way to increase the driving time for everyone. And finally, the track selection for the events. So I will just present to you the three tracks I'm that I found the most balanced in GR3, so that every manufacturer can have a chance at a good result. So, first of all, not a, I'm not a big fan of using rain in the live events. I mean, it's very nice to have it in the game and to do races under rain, but in live events right now, at least, the some cars have a very good advantage on some other, so that's not balanced to use rain weather in live events. So first, I would use Interlagos because a lot of you may know it, but it's the track that is used to do the balance for the GR3 cars. So that means that every car is pretty close in terms of pace at this track. So I've also done a bit of math to show you what it would looks like. Um, so 30 minute race around Interlagos would mean something around 19 laps, and if you take the 7 consecutive minutes driving time, that would mean at least 5 laps per driver, which is better than 1 or 2 laps that what than we saw in the previous events. So I'm pretty sure that it would be a nice track to use. I also took the example of last year's EMEA Top 24, where we had 20 cars in only 1 second in the qualifying session. So it was very intense and very nice. So I'm pretty sure that Interlagos would be a very good track to use in the Manufacturer Series live events. Then the second track I chose is Nürburgring GP. So I chose it because it's also a track with handling parts and power parts. So a 30-minute race on this track would be like 15 to 16 laps with at least 4 consecutive laps per driver. That means that at least all the drivers would have to race at least 1/4 of the race. So that's already a nice step forward, in my opinion. And finally, I chose Kyoto Driving Park in his full layout because I'm a big fan of this track in this game, and I think it's also a track that is pretty balanced in GR3, and also because I think that they should use at least one original track from the game in each live show, so that is to say in each Manufacturer Series and each Nations Cup event. So I decided to choose this track because it's a very nice track that have a lot of technical parts and a lot of overtaking opportunities. Obviously, using the full layout, it makes the every laps a bit longer, but it also gets rid of the possibility of penalties in the chicane, and that could lead to debates with everyone watching. So, in my opinion, it would be better to use the full layout if they decide to use it in a live event. Then a 30-minute race on this track would be around 14 laps with 4 consecutive laps per driver at least. So if you use, obviously, if they decide to use the 7-minute rule, um, obviously all that I say isn't said by anyone from Gran Turismo, but that's only my opinion on what they should do in the live events to improve the experience for anyone. So that's it. Finally, I finished the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to me and going through this document. If you want to read, I will attach the document alongside the video, as I probably already said, but I don't remember. And if you have any issue or any question, anything that you want to say, just feel free to comment and contact me. So, and I will do my best to answer you. And yeah, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed doing it. And if you guys have anything to say, just feel free to contact me, and um, I will I will answer you as soon as I can. So see you in the next video, or maybe if you contact me in the comments. And yeah, see you in the next one.